Hey everyone, this is Kevin from Kevin's Micro Fleet. Today I've got a Micro Galaxy Squadron review. We're going to be taking a look at the Series 8 Starship class shuttle Tydirium. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the figures, at the vehicle, at the packaging. We'll do some measurements and we'll do a comparison. Let's go ahead and dive into the review. Let's start with the exterior of the packaging. First thing to notice here is actually on the bottom, this says Series 7. So the interesting thing about this is actually rolling out with Series 8. So don't know whether or not that was a late change to end up bumping this back to Series 8 or not, but for whatever reason, we're getting it at that time. So whether you want to call it Series 7 or Series 8, whatever you want to do. You can see up here in the top right, it's got the media source that this comes from. This is from Return of the Jedi. And then you can see number 177, Tydirium Shuttle. You get your figures in there, and then you get the vehicle. Turn this to the side and get this really cool looking shot of the vehicle flying through space. And then on the back here, we have all of the different features to this, with the opening compartment and the figures and all that stuff. We'll take a look at all of this once we break it out of the package. And then how the wings attach. There are all the wings that are actually inside the packaging. They're obviously not connected to it, which I'll show you how to do that here once we open this up. Here is the UPC if you want that. And let's go ahead and break this thing out of the box. So we get a chance to see the interior now of the packaging. It's great that they did this. This is, again, I think a late change where we started to get some of these vehicles that had just a generic backing, but it's really cool to get Endor there as well as the Death Star 2, which you can't really see when the vehicle is in there just because it takes up so much space, but this is the interior card backing. You can use this as a display stand if you wanted to, or do whatever else you want to do with it. So now we'll go ahead and take a look at the figures. So here we've got our 4 figures that come with this set. So we've got our Han Solo in his Endor trench coat, Chewbacca, and then we have our 2 different Rebel troopers. So let's go ahead and take these guys out, and then we'll do a comparison of them to some of the other figures that we got. Now here are the 4 figures that we get with this set. So you get all the way on the far left there, Han Solo in his Endor trench coat. You get Chewbacca, and then you get 2 different Rebel troopers. As you can see, the Rebel troopers do have some difference there in skin tone as well as the color of the gloves. And this is definitely a new mold for Han. All of the figures look to be very well sculpted. As we turn this around, you get a chance to see the back here of them. You can actually see there is some slight camo on the sleeve here of this one Rebel trooper. It is very, very slight. And then you can see the camo there on the back of Han's trench coat, which looks really nice. I'm glad that they put that extra little feature into it because some of these figures had not had that previously. These guys are all 1 inch in size, and then you can see there, unfortunately with Han, for whatever reason, the paint didn't get applied right to his nose, so it looks kind of funny. And Chewbacca has got some good color there on his sash or whatever you call that thing that he's wearing, which looks really nice. So let's go ahead and take a look at these compared to some of the other figures that we get of similar characters. So here are our 3 different versions of Han. You've got the Endor, then our Series 1 Han from the Millennium Falcon, and then you have the one that came in the Skiff set. And overall, the Hans look to be okay. The biggest challenge I think you run into with this type of size of figure is that when you're trying to do machine painting on the skin tone, it is just very difficult to get that accurate, as well as to just get the hair accurate. So you can see just how those have kind of blended a little bit on the figures. Now, certainly the sculpt and just the overall details that they've added here to the figures as we've moved along in the series has been really, really nice. So it's been nice to be able to see continued improvement. I hope they can just get the face detailing there dialed in just a little bit better, so that way we get more paint on the face and less on the hair. Now we have our different Chewbaccas. So the one on the far left is the Series 1 Chewbacca that came with the Millennium Falcon. The one right in the middle is the one that came with the Desert Skiff pack. And then the one on the right side is the one that we're getting with the Endor. And you can see that the far 2 here on the right, Those are basically the exact same. I can't see any noticeable difference in them. The sculpt, again, looks to be really nice. They did a great job with getting the hair really nice on there. But again, they just added a lot more of the silver relative to what we got with the Series 1 version, which has just got that brown, sash thing. And here we have our Rebel Troopers. So you can see the two on the left side, which these are all Endor Rebel Troopers. The two on the far left were the two that came with the Millennium Falcon Battle Pack that actually had Lando and Nine Nub, and then these two guys, which I believe was called the Destroy the Death Star Battle Pack. And then we have the two on the right side here come with the Shuttle Tydirium. So a nice upgrade there with just some of the paint application, making it a little different, changing the skin tone, changing the color of the shirt that they're wearing. The sculpt of these are all the same, so no real difference there. Just again, a little bit of difference in paint application. But nice to be getting two different looking figures versus the two just generic ones that came with the original Millennium Falcon Battle Pack. Now I've got the wings out of the package here, and the one thing I did want to point out, because this is what happened with the previous Imperial Shuttle that we got, is you can see that some of the wash has actually gotten down onto these connector pieces. So it's not that much, but it is enough wash to create a problem with being able to get these things to clip together. So what I'm going to do here is use some isopropyl alcohol. I'll put it on a Q-tip, and then I'll just go ahead and wipe this away so that it's nice and clean. That makes sure that when you connect this to the wing ports that are on the actual vehicle, that they actually clip in nice and tight. If you don't do this, sometimes they won't clip all the way in. It's just kind of a bummer that that they can't tape this off so that the wash doesn't get on those little grooves, but I found that with a couple of the other vehicles as well. Let me go ahead and do that. We'll be right back. So just a quick comparison here of the wash being cleaned off on this version, and this one doesn't have it. You can just see a little bit that's on there. Again, I'm going to go ahead and clean the rest of it off, but just wanted to show a quick comparison. So I've now attached all of the wings to this, and we're going to go ahead and take a look here first at just the deco of this. So you can see here on the wings how it has some streaking here. Now these streaks are painted on, and the great thing about the way that they did this streaking is they actually did fade it out. So, you know, it's darker here at the top, and then it fades as you would normally have a type of streaking. Pretty cool to be able to get that on a machine painted item, which you'll see some more of here as I show this wing. But you've got a couple little streaks there, and then around to the back you don't really have much. Now the one thing that is interesting, at least about the version that I have, is the wings have a lot of this wash on it and panel lighting. However, the entire hull part of this doesn't. So it does look a little bit odd that the wings are really worn and weathered, but the body of this looks really fresh, like right off of the right off the assembly line. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at some of the different features of this, here on the bottom first, you have two landing gear, and then you have this ramp that does act as a landing gear as well, so that way when you set it down, it does have the ability to sit relatively flush. To be able to close this, you push this little button right there and it closes it, and then you can pull it down like that and it locks in place. I am really happy that the mechanism on this one works. I have two of these from the original Imperial Shuttle, and only one of them actually functions like that. The other one just doesn't quite stick all the way up. These guys just will fold back in like that, and there you go. You also have these rotating turret guns here on the side that will have some articulation to it, like that. And then on the back here, you do have this little gun here on the back that does have just a tiny bit of rotation, not a ton, but it does move around just a little bit. So I'm gonna back the camera up here just a smidge, so that way we get a chance to see the coolest feature of this, which is the wings opening. Now, this is on a ratcheting system, so as we pull this out, you can hear the clicking, and then there it is in its full wing position. So this thing looks really amazing. It's kind of hard to get this thing all in the shot. So let me back up just a little bit more. That way you get a chance to be able to see this thing in all its glory. It is huge. So when it's in this position right here, when the wings are all fully locked out, it looks incredible. And again, you can see there with the detailing on the top fin, looks really, really nice. I mean, again, as we turn this thing around to the side and you get a chance to see it. We'll do some measurements here in a minute so that way you can see what that looks like. Now, there is another component to this that is important, which is the interior of it. So in order to get to that, first thing we can do is we can open up the cockpit. And inside the cockpit, they did a great job here with the seats. One of the things that they've changed slightly is these little pieces right here, these little clips that they use to be able to hold the figures in place are actually a soft rubber. So now when you put the figures in it, it's much, much easier than the stiff version that they had before. And then the other really cool thing is when you pop this top wing off, take this guy off of here. Now you can open up this panel here to have an interior play area, which is really cool. You can go ahead and seat some troopers in there. You've got seats there for 6 more troopers. And then you can also see in here, you have a little peg to be able to put a droid on, which I'll totally outfit this here as we get a little bit further on in the video. That way you can see what the interior looks like. And it looks really, really cool. So relative to the Imperial Shuttle, the Emperor's version, there is actually an Emperor's throne right there. Obviously in this one, they have that removed because it's not. So let me go ahead and do some measurements, and then we'll go ahead and do some comparison. So now I have this on a flight stand here to do these quick measurements. So you can see here, wingspan side to side is about 10 inches. The height on this thing is really huge. So from the bottom of the wing to the top is about 1 foot. So 12 inches there. You can't even see it. It's just off the camera. And then from front to back, this guy is about 8 inches. When in the landed position, now we get a chance to see this guy stands 7.5 inches tall. So looking at this one, I want to show just a comparison of this to the original Imperial Shuttle. So here is the Emperor's Imperial Shuttle. The size, again, is the same. So you can see, obviously, the major difference is the panel lining there on the actual wings. When we look at this from the front, here's what it looks like from the front. And then as we turn this thing to the side, get a chance to see. There it is again. So the Emperor's version, it just has a wash on it, but it doesn't have any of the really dark panel lining. I much prefer the dark panel lining. I think it makes the whole detail of the vehicle pop a lot more than just having it with its just normal stuff. So let's go ahead and open this thing up, and then we'll take a look at the interior to see the difference. Now we have the difference between the interior of the compartments here. And so you can see again with the Shuttle Tydirium, how we have some figures in there. We don't have the Emperor's chair, versus in the Imperial Shuttle version, you have the Emperor's throne in there. All of the other details are exactly the same. There is no difference to be able to tell them apart, other than obviously the chair difference. And now you get a chance to see what this looks like with a bunch of the figures in there. And then as we turn this around to be able to see, here is the Shuttle Tydirium. And now we have pretty much the whole crew, other than C-3PO and maybe a couple of other troopers. But otherwise, this thing is filled out, and that's what that looks like. So here's our Shuttle Tydirium compared to the Action Fleet Shuttle Tydirium. And you can see the size comparison is almost comical.
The Action Fleet version was very cool for a very long period of time. It was one of actually the first Action Fleet vehicles I ever owned as a kid. And so getting a chance to see these next to one another is just really cool. The Micro Galaxy Squadron version obviously is significantly bigger, way more play features and details to it, which makes it a whole lot of fun to have. It's also massive, about the size that I would expect it to be. And I think the scaling here is pretty decent. So it is, again, just funny to see that next to the Action Fleet version because it is so small. So let's go ahead and look at this compared to some TIE fighters. Here is the shuttle compared to some TIE fighters. So this is my trench run stand here I've got with the TIE fighters and Darth Vader's TIE Advanced. And just wanted to show this as a comparison to be able to see what it would look like to have the TIE fighters right next to the Imperial Shuttle. And you can see scale looks okay. It's not perfect. I mean, I think the shuttle should be maybe just a little bit larger than what it actually is relative to the TIE fighters. But for the most part, I think it's passable on my scale. If you did want to find out the scale of all of these, you can check out rebelscale.com. They have all the scales for all of the different vehicles. So that is your review for the Shuttle Tydirium. If you liked this, please go ahead and like and subscribe. These are starting to show up at Targets and on Amazon. So if you're able to pick them up, go ahead and do that. Again, if you liked, like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to catching everybody on the next review.